But you think about how many tourists come here, and we have definitely tourists that go home with this. We've been contacted by a number of doctors and people in other countries. A couple from Florida came here. They used their Hawaiian Air Miles to go on their dream vacation, and he went back, and a man in his 60s with rat lungworm, and his wife told me he laid on the couch and cried every day. You know, this is a really, really, really painful disease, and people come over here, you know, oh, paradise, you know, and they're all excited. The couple that got it on Maui, both University of Berkeley, at UC Berkeley professors, that came over here on their honeymoon, and both got rat lungworm in Maui. You know, and he was 8 months off and on in the hospital. He's on dialysis now. This is a life-changing disease. It really is. In many cases, I know a radiologist at Hilo Medical Center that has never worked again since he got it. These are professional people. A man who was in sales with his wife, they sold RVs and that kind of thing. They had a home in HPP on our island, and they also had their businesses in Washington. His short-term memory is so gone that he can't do sales, and he is a very different man than the man that we met shortly after, because now he's years into it and he's not able to work. And, you know, and all of a sudden you go from a double income down to one income. This is a life-changing disease, and so really think broad and getting this message out. That's why I'm going to be talking to California. It's like people come all the time here from all over the world, and there's not enough information out there. You know, and if we can make it in a way that's kind of humorous or whatever, but the stigma attached to this disease right now, and part of it really goes back to the Department of Health, saying this is a lifestyle disease. It's because you're dirty. Actually, on their website at one time it said, the reason you get this disease is because you live in conditions like a third world country. And that was based on what they were looking at in Puna. Puna is one of the poorest districts in the whole state. We have a lot of woofers, willing worker on organic farms over there. We have a lot of people that live in very minimal housing. You know, some people have made very elaborate tarp structures that are quite nice, but slugs obviously can get in. But when the Department of Health went over there, they simply said, this is because you guys are living dirty. And I don't care what demographic level you live at. The Department of Health's job is to protect the health and mental well-being of all the people and visitors of Hawaii. I don't care what economic strata you're from, that's your job. And so a stigma has been attached to this disease, and a lot of people apparently, and I heard this from a man that got rat lungworm disease that puts in alarm systems on houses, and he has some pretty wealthy you know, customers. And he told me, and I haven't verified this, but he worked for that family, and one of those people that drank kava and got this a couple years ago died. And he said the family was so ashamed that they didn't ever say anything about it. Now that to me is tragic, to have stigmatized this disease to where people don't want to talk about it. And so that's where we've got to change that paradigm. We really, really do. It's not shameful. This is what AIDS was back in the 80s. It's all the homosexuals getting it, it's the drug addicts getting it. Well, no, it's not. You know, and so that's not the right approach, not at all. And so it's all of you guys and your students that can help change this and really bring it out in the open, and it's not shameful. I've seen people living in very, very nice houses. Like I said, Tom Travis and his wife. He's head of emergency management right now. He was the commander of a nuclear submarine. These are intelligent people who took every precaution and got rat lungworm. His wife was she's still affected by it. She had sepsis of the kidneys last year because, again, this doesn't necessarily, whether it's affecting other organs because, like I said about the vagus nerve, or whether it's because we have lost worms in the body somewhere where the worms got lost and affected those organs, we don't know the reason why, but over and over again, my son had paralysis of the bladder. That's a very common problem with rat lungworm. The only reason he was admitted to the hospital, even though my sister took him in, and You know, she lived in the area where the outbreaks happen, and she took him into the doctor, and she said, I think he has rat lungworm. I was in Indonesia, and they said, no, he's got the flu. They hydrated him, gave him some pain meds, and sent him home. She brought him back a couple days later. She said, he has rat lungworm. You need to put him on steroids. They're bringing in papers from China. They said, no, he's got the flu, sent him home again. He couldn't urinate, and that was why he was admitted to the hospital. And he had to self-catheterize for about a year after he got out of the hospital. I know people who it's very, very difficult for them just simply to go to the bathroom anymore. This is not a good disease. It is, they say serious cases of rat lungworm disease are rare. To me, rare is like hitting the jackpot in Vegas, right? All of a sudden you have almost 17 people, like the 17 cases, the majority of them were from our island. We have a population of around 200,000 people. You have 17 serious cases in a small population. That's not rare anymore. If that was Vegas, they'd be resetting those machines because you wouldn't want that many times for somebody to hit the jackpot. So what we have here falls outside of all of the definitions of what's out there in the literature about rat lungworm disease. They still say 2 to 8 weeks you're recovered. That's not true. We don't see that here. You know, and when people say, well, you know, the Jarvie Lab and the health department has gone head to head, it's because we want the truth. This is not what we're seeing. And when somebody's life is impacted to the point where they cannot work anymore, that's a problem. That's a real problem. So this is really like, this is so crucial for you guys. And so all of these ideas are so, so good. Every case that we can prevent, you just save somebody's life. You know, not only do you have a sick person, I had to leave my work to take care of my son. And then I went back to school. So I lost years of income. I lost years of retirement. It affects families financially because somebody has to take off of work to take care of that sick person. They might release you from the hospital, but if you don't have somebody to help you out, you're not going to recover very well. And that's the truth. So this is so great. What you guys are doing is so, so, so important. And to change, you know, the political outlook on this is really crucial. And the kids, I just know that getting the kids involved is what's going to change the whole situation in Hawaii. So I just want to give you guys all a round of applause and thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Version of you who could come in and
These guys, some of you guys are going to become the Oahu
like,
version.
If
You
we're
know,
not ready yet
yeah.
to see that.
Well, you know, the other thing we should start to think, and I will be on the Big Island for about 7 to 8 weeks this fall. Okay, so I'm going to be doing 3 two-day professional development workshops there, and then working a lot during the school days with Waimea schools. But you know, that's a good time to fly me over. And the other thing we should think about too is using technology, because I can come into a classroom in a video conference, you know, I can come into a classroom that way. So, you know, we just have to think big. How can we use technology, you know, and how can you guys then become the educators, like my Mountain View school teacher? She became the resource for the community. Every time somebody was freaking out about rat lungworm, they called Sherry Frias. You know, and so you guys become the experts. That's how the trainer of trainers works. You know, I teach you, you teach your kids, kids teach, and so we can exponentially spread awareness that way, rather than, you know, little bits and pieces, and maybe we got this population and that.
Like an Oahu prodigy yet?
Rob Cowie could probably, you could, but Rob, you know, I mean, Rob Cowie's worked with it, but not with the bear parasites. I mean, the things that we've done at the Jarvie Lab, the studies we've done, we worked with a parasitologist from Spain who developed a vaccine for a very close relative of Angiostrongylis cantonensis called Angiostrongylis costarricensis, and it stays in the gut and it causes blockages in the gut. It's mostly in Central America and South America. And he had developed a vaccine. So we did this whole trial. We caught black rats, bred a generation of F1s, infected them, you know, vaccinated them, infected them. We did a vaccine trial. It didn't work, but from that we got rat lungworm. We got adult rat lungworm. So then we worked with Thailand. Thailand has developed a blood test. Right now, to diagnose rat lungworm, you have to have a spinal tap. They have to take CSF fluid, and they're going to look for the DNA of the parasite. They can miss it. When you run a PCR, how much material do you use in a PCR, Debbie?
Wait, how much material do you need?
Yeah. I mean, how much?
Technically one strand of DNA, right?
Yeah. But I mean, you might take, say you take 10 mils of fluid. You're only going to be looking at possibly like what? Less than 100 microliters.
Yeah.
You know, so you could miss it. It could be missed. A blood test, you got to wait for the antibodies to come up, but at least you don't have to go to the hospital and get a spinal tap. And now Thailand's got that kit that they can actually go out into the field because they were worried about refrigeration. You know, so we worked with Thailand and we took those adult worms. Yes, that was a failure. The vaccine didn't work, but we got rat lungworm out of that, and we went on to the next step, and we went on to looking at a blood test diagnostic, you know. And from that we morphed into, and we're still working on that, you know, from that we morphed into doing our death analysis. So, you know, that's how science works. You know, Sarah Park was right away, vaccines aren't going to work, you know. It's like, well, it didn't work, but it gave us this, and we went on to that. So that's, you look at your mistakes and your failures, and they're not. They're your stepping stones. They're your stepping stones to the next place. And that's what we've got to do here. You know, now we're actually looking at deworming rats. To us, that makes sense. And to every veterinarian, including Richard Malik, who's the head of veterinary sciences for the University of Australia at Sydney, he said that's a really great idea. You know, all we need is the money to run it. But these are the things, you know, it's that ideate, throw out ideas. You know, they're all okay. None of them are stupid. Ideate, and then go ahead and design your test, and then go ahead and do your prototype, and then go ahead and test it. And that's how we work.